How do you guys feel about Zach Edey in this combine actually shooting threes and making a few of them in the drills, not in like a 5-on-5 setting, but does that change y'all's mindset too much about him?
You know, that's funny, though. I'm not even thinking about the shooting necessarily, but I saw that in pretty much all like the major athletic drills, he was faster than Donovan Clingan, which I thought was actually pretty interesting, especially with how differently they're viewed. But I mentioned, well, our big board, you guys didn't see it, but I've warmed up to Edey a little bit. I do think he could be like a late first round talent. That's where I would put him. I know some people still have him in the lottery, but I think with a lot of these guys in this draft, it's just going to depend on fit. And something that I've kind of thought about something that I've kind of been thinking about recently is how we're kind of seeing the big, stocky, big man come back. Like, obviously, you have Jokic. Clingan is another guy in this draft who kind of models that. But also look at Rudy Gobert. I feel like they're making a comeback, and they're showing that there can be a place for them in this league. So I feel like Edey may not have the high upside that those guys have, but I think that there's a spot for him in this league.
I think it'll have to be like a really good fit, kind of like you said. Like, it has to be a team that's like built a certain way for him to succeed. With that being said, though, he's someone who's like moved up a little bit on my board too. Like, he just if it's right, like if he's 7'5", like if he just lands in the perfect spot, it could be like he could be really impactful. But the thing is that a lot of conditions have to be right. As far as him versus Clingan, it did surprise me too that he tested like a little faster than Clingan in a lot of the drills. I don't know how much stock I put in that because I saw that national championship game. He did not look faster than Clingan in the championship game. And Clingan, like, to me, he did a really good job on Edey in that game. And he just looked like a better NBA prospect to me. Like, everything from his playmaking to his shot blocking, where he was on rotations, like how he could run the offense, how he set screens, and how he ran the dribble handoff with his guards. Like, he just seemed like someone who could fit in the NBA system really well. With Edey, I've seen him in person this year, and I just still have questions. Like, his hands are a little suspect to me at times. He doesn't seem to operate the best out of double teams, depending on, like, how they're sent. Like, Nebraska for sure made him feel uncomfortable this year, and I've seen that happen to him over the years a couple times versus different teams. Like, especially if you can pressure Purdue's guards, it seemed like he just kind of fell apart a little bit, which is the case for a lot of big men. If you can't get them the ball, they're less effective. So I just think he's someone that I would take a chance on maybe in the second round to the late first, but I would only if I had a very specific roster with guys who can go get their own shot, guys who can shoot it, a lot of spacing, and versatile defenders that can kind of cover for them to where I can kind of like a Brook Lopez, like just strictly you play drop. You don't meet at the level. I'm not going to ask him to do anything that is outside of his skill set because at this point, he is an older prospect and kind of is who he is at this point.
Yeah, I feel like right now on Tankathon, he's projected 30th to the Celtics, and after my Cleveland Cavaliers got bounced by Boston a couple days ago now, I feel like Luke Cornett he had a big impact off the bench for the Celtics, especially with Porzingis out. So if Edey could go into a system like Boston and provide some of that physicality at the rim and influence what types of shots are taken or more likely not taken around the rim for these other teams off the bench, I feel like he could have some form of a positive impact. I just hope that people realize that what he did in college with his like 28 and 13 and his per 36, that's not at all what I think teams are going to be hoping and trying to get out of him at the NBA level. I think he's mostly going to be running, setting big screens, and maybe just collecting second chance points off of misses because he's going to get a lot of rebounds, and I think that's where most of his production will come from.